Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. This is Game God Fluent, bringing you episode 4 of Let's Play Vagrus, the Riven Realms. We are playing a CRPG that takes place in the campaign world that has had dozens of hours poured into its creation. I mean, hundreds, maybe even thousands. And it reflects in the quality of the lore and the sheer interestingness, if that's, well, that's not a word, but I'm patenting that word right now. Yeah, it's just very interesting lore. It's a wild world. It's very unique. The gameplay is unique. Everything about the game is unique that I can tell. I've never quite played an RPG like it. I'm going to go ahead and light up a smoke here. And so far, 4 episodes in, I'm utterly hooked. And it's a joy to play. So I hope you join me for today's episode as we wait for this bad boy to load up. Let's disable click and play in the intro. And let's continue. We just got out of a fight with the undead. A brother of a knight of the Black Sun or something is with us. Lots of wild stuff happening. So if I open, let's see, my charts. If I open this page and let's see, how do I go to my companions again? Factions we can't open yet. There's even factions. There we are. If we look at Sidarius, he's strong-minded 2, intimidate 2, plus 2% slave workforce, plus 2 discipline. You are skilled in threatening others into doing your bidding. He's got a thick skull, immune to stun. Mighty 2, tough 3, fearless, immune to fear, and knowledgeable about gods and beliefs from all over the continent. We'll have to talk to him a bit more at camp to learn more about him. But a pretty wicked dude that's not traveling with us. So let's move out and keep moving. I'm going to turn up the volume a little bit. The whole comitatus becomes agitated as a dust cloud appears in the east and starts to move towards you. You give orders to your crew to prepare for a dust storm. Such a thing is fairly common out here on the border of the Searing Plains, and you should have little trouble traversing it. One of the largest continuous desert areas on a continent of many deserts, the Searing Plains spans several provinces that used to be forested regions and fertile plains before the calamity, but became hot, arid, and dry places of sand dunes and little else after the cataclysm struck. Many smaller regions make up the Searing Plains, all of them hot and arid. Arenas Vorax, the Smolderbone Flats, the eastern hills of the Mountains of Fire, and the southern plains around Lost Vrotluk. This large flat region is swept by strong winds and beaten by a relentless scorching sun at all times. Nights are cold and dark, but the stars are still visible at least. Some parts of the plains have low mountain ranges, rock gullies, ravines, or former riverbeds. But generally yellow sand dunes and salt flats are the most common features. A constant hot wind blows from the east and north, creating sandstorms regularly. Here and there one can find an oasis, but these are pretty rare, and if they are not occupied by a faction, they are currently contested. The vast northern part of the Searing Plains is called the Voracious Desert, Arenas Vorax. It is a desert of yellow sands and great dunes. Barren and windswept, many avoid it because of the numerous and hidden quicksands that plague the place. Tribal people called the Sadarar inhabit some parts of Arenas Vorax, although they mostly just travel through and live west of the Voracious Desert. The Sadarar live through the calamity in underground shelters. They are less aggressive than other tribal cultures on the continent, but they are still very territorial. Mostly dense forests and rolling fertile hills, this whole region was bombarded by fire from the sky during the calamity. Legends say it was so devastating and hot that it turned the surface into glass, which shattered and was ground into fine sand. People who survived in shelters called tectums emerged hundreds of years after the cataclysm to retake the area. They fought fierce battles with the sandworms of the area and now occupy the oases and underground cities that dot the endless dune. These territories are officially under Imperial control, but in truth, this rule is fairly loose except for a few cities. And I did not read... from last episode. Did I read the Falsmiths? Yes. Oh, Irophons, often wrongly referred to as a god, was a saint of old imperial religion whose influence was so great in everyday life that his worship remained even after the calamity. Called the Vagabond, he is the one who looks after roads and travelers. His worship is very popular among Vagri. Originally, Irophons was a man who, according to legend, visited every place there is, yet never found what he sought until we realized he was drawn to the road itself. Strangely, his Cenobites have magical powers in the post-calamity era, even if not as potent as that of the priests of the Triumvirate. Pretty sure we read Demonkin. Why is that blue? I don't know. We'll read more of this stuff. We read the Molten Tongue. We read Torzak's Shelter. We read The Wound. We read Vagrus. Vagrus is a person who leads a comitatus. The original meaning of the word is vagabond. This leader is considered a venturer, a wanderer, and a captain. Vagri can be elected or simply own most of the comitatus due to their wealth. Most people consider them necessary since they often bring news and trouble, but are also vital to the survival of distant and isolated places, as well as to the flow of commerce in the empire. Most Vagri are fiercely independent, though some work exclusively for a trading house. Trading house. Trade houses are millennium-old institutions, essentially merchant guilds that wield a great deal of influence. Houses have their own traditions, hosts of loyal retainers and agents, lobbyists in the Senate, outposts around the continent, and even mercenary armies. Typically, each great trading house has one or more monopolies, but the scene tends to shift radically from year to year. Contemporary Zerine is characterized by many isolated settlements divided by vast and perilous lands. This is one of the main reasons why mercantilism rose to utmost importance. Trade and communication would be virtually impossible without the involvement of comitati, armed caravans that traversed the wasteland. It did not take long before the merchants started to flock together to protect their interests. Trading houses represent the pinnacle of merchant organizations. Most often they are run by a council of merchants, a family of aristocrats, or some other interest group. Successful Vagri can hope to enter these trading houses, gaining their benefits and protection along with the obligation to pay a considerable tribute and abide their internal code of conduct that governs most aspects of trade. Though typically an imperial institution, a trading house can belong to almost any culture these days, and many historians claim that the first ones ever were created by merchants from Tark. We read Dwarves. Comitatus is the imperial word for an armed traveling company of varied size and composition. The word can be used to describe a merchant caravan, a mercenary company, a group of explorers, a band of fugitives, and so forth. Basically, any group that stays together for an extended period of time on the road can be called a comitatus. Yet most people only use the term exclusively for a group of people who wander constantly, making a living as traveling merchants or mercenaries, and who have a Vagrus or leader who runs the venture professionally. Due to the isolation of most settlements and the vast empty wastelands in between them, comitati are vital to the survival of the empire, as they are only way to carry news, passengers, and goods over bleak leagues of land. Changers are a type of coin used in the Empire and most other realms on the continent, made of carved bone, wood, glass, obsidian, or even pretty stone. These coins are the least valuable of the standard imperial currency, so most people see a lot of them. Curiously, there's no standard for how they should look, yet everyone knows if a coin is worth enough to be considered a changer. Usually 10 changers are worth a single lirg. Lyric is the most commonly used minted coin in the Empire and in the other realms of the continent on Zerreen. It is small, made of copper, and most people come into contact with it fairly regularly, even though the poor see it less often. The imperial crest, laurels, and a two-headed eagle are on one side, while the usually senators or other aristocrats are on the other. The coin used to be called Lyragos after the common coin of old Daramar, the forgotten pre-Empire kingdom of humans, where it bore the name of a mighty king. And finally, Bros is a small silver coin minted by the Empire and used extensively in both pre- and post-Calamity eras. The imperial crest, laurels around a two-headed eagle, is on one side, while Mercatus, saint of commerce and trade, is on the other. Bros is very valuable in the Fourth Age, so most people see it very rarely and almost never own it. The exception are the rich and most merchants. Bros Conrius was the man of the Third Age who was a close friend of the Saint Mercatus, and worked for the Senate to simplify the system of many currencies that caused much chaos in his era. Originally called Denaris, the coin was named after Bros by the merchant guilds, and it stuck with the populace. Ash? Ash is a township. Okay, we're not going there yet. How about Ashcool? I think we read that. Yep. Keep King we read. We'll come back to these other ones. The Dead Forest we read. And we'll go ahead and check out these other ones too. But let's go ahead and... Whoops. I shouldn't have clicked that button. Okay, there we go. It took me to it. That is cool. But where is it? Up here? Plains of Agony, the Land of Shadows, Bronze Desert, the Searing Plains. Oh, this is so cool, man. I love this, but where did it take me? It's not exactly showing me the place, but we're pretty close to AVERNUM. Yeah, we'll get to this other stuff. Meant to exit out. Okay, make the necessary arrangements and head on south. After half an hour, the cloud is much closer, and it is now certain that it will cross your path. By then, everyone is wearing protective masks or bandanas, and all the cargo and equipment are secured. Javik is riding a large beast of burden, having fastened himself to its back, deep in concentration to maintain the calmness of all your animals with his telepathic skills. But something is off. An uncanny twilight is settling on the broken plains around you. It is much too early for sunset, and the storm itself should not blot out light in such a manner. And then you hear it, chanting on the wind, and a pale light at the heart of the storm heading your way. You can see the faces of the crew slowly becoming distorted in panic. Try to flee as fast as you can. You are just about to give the order when Sidarius walks up to you. What is the meaning of this, Vagrus? There's no need for such a desperate act. It is just a dust storm. You tell him quickly about your previous encounter with the last pilgrimage. Nonsense. The chances that the pilgrims would show up again are... Sidarius trails off as the eerie twilight falls upon the Comitatus and the dust cloud envelops you all. There is no time to flee or hide, so you signal everyone to draw weapons and stand at the ready. Some of your crew tremble, some are praying, and some are about to break, but not Sidarius. The knight walks towards the approaching apparition as if being possessed by a death wish. You can see Javik frowning and sweating in concentration, no doubt trying to combat your beast's instinct to flee in utter terror. In a few moments you can hear the chanting and see the ghastly pilgrims clearly through the dust curtain, desiccated forms in faded robes shuffling along the broken terrain, or rather over the terrain somehow, as if floating at a rapid pace. Their vacant faces are illuminated by a dreadful pale light that emanates from their hollow insides. You are paralyzed by terror. Blurred images enter your mind, visions of a horrid procession of the living dead wearing faded robes. You walk among them. You are one of them. Is this the end? Before they could reach you, the spectral pilgrims turn left and head south along a dried-out riverbed without any apparent reason. It takes your mind a few minutes to comprehend that an unusual mercy has just been granted to you and your crew. The last pilgrimage marches on, slowly disappearing into the cracked badlands beyond, taking the ghoulish twilight and the dust storm with them. It takes a good few moments for the crew and yourself to come to your senses. Did this truly happen? What was the reason, if any, for the spectral troop to change direction at the last second? How can it be explained that they appeared again after such a short time? Sidarius walks over to you looking confident, though you can see he's a bit shaken too. Sir Gorod is with us. This is an omen if I have ever seen one. My destiny for retribution against the enemies of the Empire must be the reason why these horrors let us be. You swallow and nod, yet you're not so certain why it happened the way it did. Rest assured, Vagrus, as long as you have me by your side, no harm will come to your comitatus. Remember that. Sidarius walks away, signaling the line to move along. +5 insight. Still rattled, you move along the line, assuring everyone that the danger had passed. With the comitatus moving, you join Javik on top of the largest beast of burden, but you barely talk. You have never heard of anyone encountering the last pilgrimage twice. Somehow you do not feel blessed, haunted more like. After an hour or two, you and your crew fall back into your travel routines, and tonight, all this will seem much less terrifying. In fact, you should be grateful for avoiding certain death at the hands of these accursed things twice in a row. Hopefully there won't be a third time. You move onwards towards AVERNUM. 2 out of 10. That takes 3. We can forced march, but I'm just going to camp. Sustained, submissive, keen, fresh. Our supplies are dwindling. We're going to have to go a little bit hungry. But I can probably double your pay. No, we'll stay steady. Submissive. What are the chances of acquiring supplies? Why do they keep at 0%? It costs 2 movement points. For some reason, it's not letting us do that. Let's go ahead and talk to Sidarius while we have the chance. The Knight Sidarius is pacing back and forth along the guard perimeter. Grim as ever, he greets you with a frown. What is it you want, Vagrus? Ask what he thinks about the comitatus. What I think of this sorry bunch? One does not have to possess the clairvoyance of Sir Gorod to see how your little band is made up of rejects and misfits. I suppose not all of your business ventures are completely legitimate either. You look pale, Vagrus. Sidarius sports an evil grin. But fret not, you have been of great service to me, and I shall overlook such trespass for the good of the Empire. Ask what he thinks about Javik. The unlicensed sorcerer in your company. I could have him drawn and quartered for attempting to peek into my thoughts, the nasty dog. But what can one expect from a Tarkian? Sidarius chuckles dryly. Do not think for a moment that I haven't sensed his prying, Vagrus. Our training at the Order includes the harnessing of willpower so that such mental attacks can be deflected. He's your creature, no doubt, so perhaps he was doing it on your orders. His smile is vile. But after I made him understand the severity of his mistake, I think we are in the clear, and that is for the best. Everyone here should know their place. Ask him about his mission near the Voiceless Lake. There is nothing new to tell. I and my companions went there in search of the enemies of the Empire to smoke them out of their hideout that supposedly lay there. It was to be the last glorious battle, concluding a long investigation that took months, but we were betrayed. Now I'm certain that a cruel trap was set for us. The traitors we were supposed to apprehend lured us there along with those undead and hoped to see us all slaughtered. Sir Gorod, however, in his endless salience, saw fit to grant me, an opportunity for retribution. Rejoice, Vagrus, you have been an instrument of the divine, sent there by Sir Gorod himself to aid me in my quest for vengeance. Ask what he thinks about AVERNUM and what you can expect there. AVERNUM is an imperial city with a dubious reputation. Of course, enemies of the Empire would always reach for an opportunity to slander its greatness. Yet I must confess that after the ensnarement and slaughter of my contingent thanks to leads gleaned from supposedly trustworthy sources in AVERNUM, I shall give more credit to rumors of corruption and treason in the city. Other than that, it's a busy place, with as many honest folk as there are vagabonds and miscreants. You'd like it. Ask him about his past, tactfully, of course. You know everything you ought to already. I am a knight of Ordis Negra Solis. I was chosen for training by the Order because of my former display of prowess in the army, my loyalty to the Empire, and my noble bloodline. Yes, I am a nobleman, though once we joined the Order, that matters little. My mentor at Ordis Negra Solis was a knight of great prominence, for which I am grateful to Sir Gorod. Sidarius looks nostalgic for a few silent moments, then frowns. And what else would you like to know? Should I enlighten you about the history of my family? Tell you about my first sweetheart? Feed you secrets involving imperial politics? Don't be absurd, Vagrus. I would not do such a thing even if we were friends. Ask him about the Knights of the Black Sun. The Order of the Black Sun is one of Fulcimus Imperium. As you know, we are adherents of Sir Gorod and Ashkul. We are the best of the best, enforcers of the Empire, hunting down criminals and traitors, guarding our great leaders, and leading military operations. Our judgments are law, and our fury is that of the Emperor. Emperor Valen Zavarus, the immortal Emperor, protector of the people, the deathless, the divine son of Zine, the king of the elder gods, has been the sovereign of the Empire for over 2,000 years. Ever since his self-sacrifice during the Calamity and a subsequent comatose state, he's been unable to rule, however, and thus his most trusted servants, the Apostles, took on the burden of governing the Empire in his name. It might also behoove any historian or lore master to note that even before the Calamity, His Imperial Majesty had been rather distant from state affairs and politics in general, and was mostly occupied with overseeing the construction of the Cathedral of Ascendancy in the capital, as well as with various mysterious passion projects. Thus, the Apostles have been quite prepared for taking over the rule of the Empire in his absence. Imperial tradition states that a golden age had been going on for over 1,000 years at the end of the Third Age. This exquisitely prosperous and blessed period occurred on behalf of the gods themselves. They were the ones who guided Valen Zavarus, the immortal empire. Zavarus ascended to the imperial throne over 1,000 years before the Calamity. Him not growing old, or in fact not aging at all, was not a natural phenomenon, and the people of the empire had started to grow suspicious at first. However, the clergy soon declared that Valen Zavarus is a direct descendant of the gods themselves, a son of Zine, the supreme god and king of the pantheon. The emperor was thus seen as a demigod, and his popularity grew exponentially in the first few decades of his rule. Supported unquestioningly by the clergy, His Divine Majesty performed miracles on a daily basis. Refreshing political reforms, sensitive social engineering, economic boom, game-changing inventions, glorious military victories, and divine interventions were among the many things attributed to Zavarus. The true extent of his involvement is impossible to say, but there's no doubt that under his rule, the empire rose to be the greatest power in the whole world. The empire started to withdraw from public after the first 700 years of his rule, and was occupied with mysterious projects for the betterment of his empire. He was absent in the centuries prior to the Calamity, and only appeared to defend the people of the capital and the Hearthlands when the Elder Gods struck. His self-sacrifice saved most of these regions from arcane destruction, but the inconceivable magical energies harmed him so badly that he fell into a stasis, and has not woken up ever since. Most Imperials believe that the day will come when he will walk again among them and lead the Empire to a new golden age. Until then, he's slumbering in the Cathedral of Ascendancy, the very site of his stand against the treacherous Elder Gods, and only the 12, as well as the highest-ranking Ashkul priests can see him. Interesting. Ask him what he plans to do now. I intend to return to AVERNUM, where my contingent set out from. I have to debrief my superiors there about what happened near the Voiceless Lake. I also want to look into the lead we had worked on there, which had ultimately led us to travel to the place where you and I met, where we were ambushed. Okay, can we check their character sheets now? Alright, everybody's vitality is... Oh, Javik is 3 out of 10. We gotta use medical supplies. Oh no, that'll make them unruly. Morwen plus 2 vitality. Alright, what happened? Quality added the last pilgrimage. Oh. Cool. Alright, let's continue. Insight awarded for discovering Smolder Bone Flats. Went to camp again. The troop is exhausted, but we have to... Let's liberate a slave. Let's liberate 2 slaves, gain 2 obedience. Food is sustained. We're running very low on supplies. We've got to go back 1. Morale is distressed. Let's pay now. And fatigued. Plus 2 workers, minus 2 slaves. Medical supplies. Can we hunt yet? We can. Okay. Send workers and slaves out to forage. Oh, it costs 1 fatigued. We're good for now. Oh, nice. Javik Amorum plus 1 vitality. Let's continue. The Comitatus has seen better days. In fact, your commies are now in a pretty foul mood. Perhaps you can still turn things around. Moderate chance of success. Fail. You can't for the life of you change the mood. Worse, you only annoy people by trying. Something ought to go wrong. A trusted commies of yours informs that some of the cargo has been stolen. It is not too far-fetched to assume that the bad mood and general poor morale is to blame for such a lowly deed. Either a cowardly act of revenge or a desperate one to make a profit on the side. No matter how hard you search for it, the stolen goods are never found. Minus 2 hides. But dog, we're almost there. Hang with me, guys. Comitatus climbs a broken ridge, and everyone stops for a moment to take in the visage of AVERNUM nestled atop and around a range of large hills on the horizon to the southwest. Chimneys of the city's many forges and smelters cast a dark shadow over it, while the lava fields beyond the settlement provided intense, reddish glow as a backdrop. Several crude roads meander along the hills here, probably leading to the mines and quarries you had passed during the last day or so. Time for us to part ways for a while, Vagrus. The voice of Sidarius makes you jump a little. For a large fellow wearing heavy armor, he managed to creep up on you without a sound. He's standing beside you, gazing at the horizon. I have to make my way into the city alone. My reasons are my own. But before I go, I have a proposition for you. His voice and stature tell there's not much point in arguing. You are well aware, of course, that my contingent was betrayed and ambushed out in the wasteland where we met. During our trek back here, I've come to the conclusion that whoever betrayed us had to be someone involved in the investigation I led in AVERNUM before setting out from the city. Even though I have some ideas where to start looking for traitors, the implications of this despicable betrayal are too severe to attempt to meet it head-on. I require secrecy and guile. Most of my remaining allies in the city and I are too easy to track or recognize, and those responsible could easily make evidence disappear if I am revealed to be alive. Someone else has to provide that guile for us. After a short pause, he looks you in the eye. What I mean is that you, your friend the mage, and the rest of your crew could be vital in finding the culprits and bringing them to justice. The Empire needs your help, Vagrus. Ask him what exactly the betrayal implies. It implies people in high places, Vagrus, possibly the highest in AVERNUM. It may be that offices of no small importance in the city were corrupted. But be not disheartened. Sir Gorad teaches us that such vile sin must be rooted out no matter how high it reaches, and no matter the cost. Nevertheless, this must be approached with caution and a certain kind of secrecy that I and my allies do not possess due to our station. Ask him about the investigation he had in AVERNUM. I do not want to say much here. Suffice to say that I was summoned to the city by elements of authorities there. I was to take a leading part in a series of investigations into abolitionist activity. Yes, Vagrus, do not look so surprised. Slave lovers. Their despicable activities resulted in a whole group of those ingrates escaping their bonds and evolving into banditry, preying on good citizens of the Empire, on comitati, on people like you and your crew. I and my Sir Gorad contingent managed to catch quite a few of them with the aid of local authorities, but the liberated tribe itself was out of reach until we found a lead that we followed north to the area where we met. We were supposed to locate their hideout and deal with them in a permanent fashion. The rest is history. Liberated tribes are essentially outlaw groups that made up exclusively or mostly of escaped slaves. These are not tribes in a cultural sense, but rather because they often devolve into isolated micro-societies governed by tribalism and primitive violence. Yet they are generally the only option for escaped slaves who cannot return to whence they came. These individuals soon learn that their fate is not much better in these glorified wasteland bandit gangs, despite the elevated rhetoric. Many who join these tribes have to go without a stable food source and end up doing things they detest their former owners for. Still, most would never go back as they value their hard-earned freedom, or the Empire's authorities say that they do everything in their power to eliminate liberated tribes, but the reality is that most such gangs are either too well hidden, too mobile, or too distant to be worth sending troops to hunt them down. Ask him what kind of assistance he requires. I need someone who is not known to have cooperated with the previous investigation and is not associated with me publicly. I need that someone to spy on suspected officials and criminals while I coordinate the investigation from a hidden base of operations. You, Vagrus, and your crew fit the requirements perfectly. Additionally, you've proven yourself resourceful and tough since we met. I don't have my water here, actually, and I need it. 31 minutes. Let's go ahead and refuse him. You took him here as agreed. You have your own people and business to take care of. Sidarius looks at you coldly. You can feel the weight of his terrible gaze. As a citizen of the Empire, your business is to aid the authorities when told so, especially in matters of such great import, Vagrus. Do not disappoint me, because I am grateful for your earlier assistance. I am offering you a chance to be of service to the Empire, as well as my order, and you repay me by being ignorant? You suddenly feel dizzy. An unholy light seems to glimmer in the knight's cruel eyes as he goes on. Do not forget that I am the law. I could have you arrested in AVERNUM and your little band of vagrants disbanded for any number of reasons. Unsanctioned use of sorcery by your little friend, for one. Associating with felons and scrap heap. Oh yes, I've been talking to your crew while we were traveling. I know of your plight. Even if you are let go eventually, the delay alone and the fines would bury your business permanently. Better to aid me and be off, is it not? If all he says is true, you could have him killed right here, right now. Nobody would know. Nobody would look for him. Not with our party. He's given you no choice. You agree to aid him. The knight's anger is gone after a long moment of silence. Very well. I was nurturing the hope that you'll eventually come to your senses and be willing to aid the Empire in this perilous predicament. It is the right choice. We will struggle side by side just like we did near the Voiceless Lake, Vagrus. And I can assure you, the Order of the Black Sun does not forget loyalty and dedication to the Empire, nor does it forget treachery. He slaps you on the shoulder. Now let us part ways and follow my plan. So, what is his plan? The plan for now is to make our ways into AVERNUM separately so that you won't be associated with me at all. Rest assured that although they do not expect my return, the traitors would be informed at once had I turned up at the city gates. So I have to find an alternate way in. I will send for you once I'm settled in. Someone trustworthy shall appear and guide you to my... The next word makes him wince. Hideout. We'll talk about your tasks there. You ask him about the belongings of his former comrades. The knight frowns. That might complicate matters somewhat. He looks thoughtful. Take their holy symbols to the temple of Sir Gorad quietly. You can get rid of the weapons as you see fit, but I forbid selling them at the market. It would draw too much attention to you, and we do not want that for now. Sidarius pierces you with his gaze. I sincerely hope I can trust you with this, Vagrus. Woe betide you if you do not comply. With that, he takes leave of you and waits as you signal the comitatus to move forward. The knight remains behind to find his way into the city on his own. A quarter of an hour later, Sidarius is only a speck on the horizon and you are rapidly approaching AVERNUM. The last stretch before the city awaits you. Sidarius was removed and...
Dark omens. Ominous apparitions of an otherworldly covenant of spectres. A grim night out for vengeance. Time and coin running out slowly. Yet against all odds, we journeyed to the city of AVERNUM on the Smoulderbone Flats. A place bustling with travellers, merchants, and lowlifes. It was supposed to be a short stop on our way east, but we got more than we bargained for.
Okay, now I'm going to save it here, guys, because I know once we get into here, it's going to be crazy. I mean, look at this. I really want to start my own travels across the land, but, you know, I do want to do this prelude, this prologue, to kind of check out the story bits a little bit, and it's recommended for the tutorial, of course, so we'll continue doing it. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed as we dug in a bit here and got to AVERNUM. Hope you'll join me for more, much more to come. We're going to have a very fun time with this game. I can tell already. Appreciate you guys for watching. Much love, peace, and joy. Catch you next time with more. Fluing out. Bye-bye.